And yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Laugh, pal. Hello, welcome to another episode of CineMarks. James here,
Hello,
joined
hello.
once again. You don't like me calling you the star of the show, do you?
What do you mean?
Well, every time I
No,
call you the
no,
star of the
no,
show, we're
no,
both
no,
stars.
no. We're co-stars. Come on. I don't even like the word star. That's such a bullshit illusion.
Superstar.
That's even worse.
We don't have wrestlers, we have superstars.
That's even worse. We're just two marks here talking about films that we love, and thank you all for joining us. As today we talk about Child's Play, one of our absolute favorite films, 1988 classic. Um, Certainly a film that terrified me as a kid. I still find it really frightening. Um, and to me, I think it's a masterpiece. The original. We might delve into two and three, but really we're not going to go past that. I think it's
What?
spawned 7 sequels, something like that, including TV series, reboot, which we will certainly not talk about. Sorry, Mark Hamill. Um, it was great voicing it, but the less spoken about that film, the better. So
Well,
we're
Aubrey
kind of,
Plaza was in it, so it wasn't all
yeah,
bad.
okay, whatever. I fell asleep watching that. So we're gonna focus on.
Actually,
Did
I,
you?
I actually saw a picture of it today, the robot. It looks like Matt Damon from Team America.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a little inside joke. We will mention it though, because there's a slight nod, I believe, whether it was intentional or not, to the original. Uh, but really, we're going to try and focus on the original Child's Play, as conceived and dreamt up and brought to life really by the mind of Don Mancini. And yeah, I mean, what did you think about Child's Play when you first saw it?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when the first time I watched it, but I was young. Um, Probably same sort of time I started watching like Freddy, so about 4 or 5 year old, and yeah, it didn't scare me as much as Freddy because Freddy to me was terrifying, but like Chucky was scary. But to me, Freddy was like terrifying because there's no escape from Freddy, whereas in Chucky, you got half a chance. But I loved it. I remember one Christmas as well. My little sister. So I'm a bit older now. I'm about 10 years old. She's about 2. And one Christmas, my grandmother got her these dolls, and they would talk each other like random through the night. It was like those these two girls, those, and randomly through the night they'll start singing to each other. And I was like, what the fuck? And I used to watch like Dolly Dearest at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I believe Dolly Dearest was made um, after Child's Play, but I'm willing to guess that it was made in response to Child's Play. It's kind of, like a Chucky for girls.
Yeah.
And if y'all aren't familiar with Dolly Dearest, I highly recommend it. It's a fun movie. Can't go wrong with Rip Torn. He's always great. So, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you thought Nightmare on Elm Street was more frightening than Child's Play. I felt the opposite.
Yeah.
Child's Play is one of those films that was so frightening to me. I'm about to share a little story that is kind of embarrassing.
There we go.
I put myself. No, but when I first saw Child's Play, this film came out in '88. I probably saw it when I was 9 or 10, so this would have been a year or two after it came out. I'm just kind of loosely guessing on how old I was, but I was still in elementary school. And I went to stay at my best friend's house at the time. His name was Reagan Young, and uh, he lived not too close. Okay, so I was like 8, when my parents divorced. So my parents already split up at the time. And the reason I know that is because my dad moved back into our original house, which I grew up in as a child. And so he lived farther away than where my mom lived. And then my friend Reagan lived past where my mom lived, in a neighborhood that's it's like the Cuernavaca neighborhood, outside of Westlake in Austin. And so I was staying at my friend Reagan's house, and we watched Child's Play, and we were in his living room watching this film. And I was so terrified by this movie that we went to sleep, and I could not sleep. I was so scared at what I had just witnessed that I got up, went into the living room because I saw that a light was on and I heard some movement. That wasn't really what scared me. It was just, I think I was relieved that somebody else was awake. And I went to the living room, and his mom was awake in the kitchen. And, she asked me what was wrong. And without saying, like, I'm scared of Chucky, she knew that I was frightened, and I was so scared that, God, I'm so embarrassed admitting this. She, this might have been like after midnight. She called my dad, and he came to pick me up so that I could go home. That's how scared I was. I was not going to be able to fall asleep, in this house that, I'd been over there to play during the day, but staying over at like a friend's house was always kind of an uncomfortable thing, I think, for me, because I wasn't in my surroundings. And this might have been the first time I ever had a sleepover at a friend's house. Usually I would have my friends come sleep over at my house. And yeah, I still, to this day, I get kind of uneasy staying at other people's homes, because it's not your natural surroundings, you'll just not at ease. But anyways, yeah, so he came, and actually she drove me. I think they met like halfway because it wasn't very close. But that's how much of an effect Child's Play had on me, that his dear mom, bless her heart, got me in the car and drove me about halfway to meet my dad and do the exchange to go home. I mean, I'm not kidding. Wow. That's ridiculous. But like, this film is terrifying. I'm willing to even say that Child's Play, in my estimation, is it's certainly in like my top 10, but possibly even in my top 5 in terms of just scary, just frightening. Yeah. The tone of it, and the look of it, and the story. And the story changed a lot, right? I mean, from its original idea, from what I gathered, Don Mancini kind of conceived this idea as an answer to what he thought was the gross consumerism going on, with things like Cabbage Patch dolls, and in response to other things that he saw, like there's a Twilight Zone episode called The Living Doll, which really influenced him. Trilogy of Terror, Poltergeist, even Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, influenced him to a degree. But I think the original idea was, what if we have a doll that bleeds, and
the blood,
yeah. So like, and Don Mancini grew up. He's an openly gay man, and he grew up without a father. So he was raised by his mother. So you see the similarities there between the character of Andy Barclay, and his mom, played amazingly by Catherine Hicks. This was Alex Vincent's first movie. He was a child, but yeah, so the original basis of Andy is kind of based on Don Mancini, where they don't have a father figure; they're raised by a single mom, and so that original idea was that there was a doll that would bleed, and Andy's blood mixes with Chucky's blood, and then the original, I think, idea was it was more of like a whodunit, because there would be these murders, and it would kind of, people would start to think that maybe Andy was the one killing all these people. But then that idea got scrapped.
So I just stopped you for 2 seconds. There's a Chucky fan who's just joined us, so he just wants to say a quick hello. So this is Sammy.
Oh, Sammy!
Sammy, how big of a Chucky fan are you? You a big Chucky fan?
Yeah.
Do you want to play? He's your friend to the end.
I have the first one.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
All right, you can say goodbye now.
Yeah, bye.
All right, say bye,
it's a scary movie. Bye. Thanks, Sammy. Watch out for Chucky.
I'm a terrible father.
No. Well, that was the idea, was that what mom would buy their kid a doll that bleeds? There are dolls that pee, which I think that's kind of weird too. Like, who's going to buy their kid a doll that's going to give it golden showers? But that was the idea. It was like, what mom would buy their kid a doll that bleeds, right? So they changed it. There were a lot of changes that went along. The original title, I think, was Batteries Not Included. But then there was another movie being made at the same time, which came out, Batteries Not Included.
I like that movie.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like the retirement home, and there's the little robots and stuff, and it's a fun film. I recommend that as well, with great stop motion animation done by David Allen. So that Batteries Not Included. So they ended up changing the name. I want to say it was changed to Blood Buddy.
Yes, because of the blood gimmick, what they was talking about having.
Right. And there was a Sidney Lumet film called Child's Play as well, I think. That's in the early.
Yeah.
And so they were almost going to change the name from Child's Play, almost change it a third time, because of that film, Sidney Lumet film. But needless to say, it's Child's Play. It's the Child's Play. When you say Child's Play, I think most people think Chucky. They're probably not like, oh, that was like a film in the early 70s, wasn't it? Like, so they've certainly.
One of the other influences as well was the Robert the Doe. I don't know if you're aware of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that was the original inspiration, right? It's a real doll. You know about it.
And one of the coincidences, because obviously they changed from the blood gimmick and they decided to go with the voodoo. So the story behind Robert the Doe was that it was a disgruntled maid, or a disgruntled maid, basically, or housekeeper, who got fired or something along them lines. So she actually put a voodoo curse on that doll, and then everyone else who proceeded to have the doll afterwards be like car accidents and just like all this unlucky like stuff happens.
Jeez.
So I don't know if that was an influence with Chucky, but with the voodoo stuff like coming involved with it, it can't be a coincidence.
I mean, I think that's part of what makes the film so frightening, is that, voodoo is a real practice. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's more Haitian, but it's a real deal. There's tons of voodoo museum tourist traps in New Orleans. It's something that exists, but you're not really aware of it, and so that makes it kind of more frightening. but that's certainly one of the things that the remake later on just failed completely by nixing that whole voodoo subplot,
Yeah.
making it about disgruntled employee who reprograms this doll and blah blah blah. Whatever. I don't know. I fell asleep watching that crap.
To me, I mean, Mark Hamill done a good job, but you know, I like Mark Hamill. You know, it's Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? And the Joker.
Yeah, he's great.
Had it not been a Child's Play remake and just been its own sort of thing, yeah, it would have been like compared to Child's Play, but at least it would have had its own identity. They could call it, I don't know, Simon Says, like a robot or whatever. You know what I mean? And it could have had its own identity. But when you're watching it, you're going to compare it to Child's Play, and unfortunately, there's not that many remakes, bar the thing, that holds up like to the original. You know what I mean?
Sure. But I think, I think they really hit something here by identifying that most children have teddy bears or a doll, who they talk to and they befriend. And, when Tom Holland came aboard as the director, Tom Holland, people might remember, he directed Fright Night. That was his first film directed Fright Night. But he was a writer. He wrote the sequel to Psycho. He wrote the screenplay for Psycho 2. He also wrote one of my favorite films, Cloak and Dagger. But Fright Night was his first film directing. But then, he got the job to write. I think they even approached William Friedkin to direct Child's Play at one point. They approached quite a few people, but when they hired Tom Holland to direct, he brought in influence, thinking that the look of Chucky, at least, was based more so or heavily influenced by. I don't know if y'all had these in the UK, but in the States we had My Buddy dolls.
I saw a picture of it today. Yeah, it's uncanny. A couple of the colors are swapped round, but it's uncanny.
My buddy, and me. And then they would later come out, kid sister, and me. Well, that's why I'd be willing to bet that's why in that snoozer of a remake they couldn't use, I think, the name Chucky, but they renamed it Buddy. With a Y, so I'd be willing to bet that came from.
With an I, not with a Y.
Yeah, I mean with an I. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I with a with a Wi-Fi signal like sticking out of it.
Oh, right. Yeah, just I don't. It's so.
I've seen it once. That's what I've seen it.
It's funny too because the belief is that toy line, the My Buddy toy line. This killed it. The Child's Play movie, I'm willing to believe, is what that toy line, because kids didn't want to buy that toy anymore. They were so frightened.
Yeah.
I never had My Buddy. I had like teddy bears when I was a kid. I actually won a teddy bear contest in Austin, like the city teddy bear contest in Austin. Somewhere I have a plaque.
Well, congrats.
But that's a very real thing. Did you have like any kind of friend or doll or something when you were a kid?
I mean, I don't know if there's any UK fans in the chat. Something, not so much a doll, but in the 90s it was fucking huge. Furbies. There's like these little
Furby
gizmo sort of looking things, Furbies. But you can record your voices on that. But like, obviously, I'm a boy, so like I used to just play Action Men and things like that. But like I had like my stuffed teddies when I was a kid and that, but like I just grew up like Action Men and wrestling. So but I'm sure there was some stuff, but like especially for like girls and stuff, but I never really paid attention. But so we'll get into the casting, and before this is something I learned today. Before we got back to who we got, one of the original guys they approached was John Lithgow.
I saw
To
that.
be-
Yeah, for Charles Lee
that
Ray.
would have been amazing.
Insane. I think John Lithgow is one of the greatest actors living, and he's played some amazing psychopaths in
Oh,
his time.
cliffhanger. It was awesome.
He's such a great heel. I mean, I believe he was the Trinity killer, right, in the Dexter series. I think that he was definitely one of the
Yeah,
best villains.
I've never watched Dexter, but I've heard nothing but good things, so I could do with watching it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of parts of it that I liked. There are a lot of parts of it that I was like, but he was certainly one of the standouts, easily.
Lord Fuckwad and Shrek.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw that. And I thought that's a really inspiring choice. So yeah, they approached John Lithgow, I think, for Charles Lee Ray, and for whatever reason that didn't happen. But what an insane find! I mean, not so much a find, but just like they hit the jackpot casting Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray. I mean, to me, there is no. To me, it's almost like Robert Englund with Freddy Krueger.
I thought that.
Yeah, there's no Chucky without Brad Dourif. There just isn't, you know.
And it's weird as well because similar to, like, it's not the same as, say, Jason or Michael Myers because they don't speak, but Robert Englund, you do see Robert Englund sporadically as himself, but obviously as he's Freddy, he's behind the makeup and that. But Brad Dourif, you only see him at the beginning of the first movie for 5-8 minutes, and then you don't see him again. You just hear his voice, but you can't imagine anyone else doing his voice.
No. Yeah, he is the Lakeshore Strangler, Charles Lee Ray, and most of the film was shot on location in Chicago. I saw somewhere that they shot the apartment was shot at the Brewster Apartments in Chicago. So if you're a local Chicago native and you're familiar with the Brewster Apartments, that's where poor babysitter Maggie met her fate. I'm in Chicago right now. Yeah, I'm in Chicago. I'm not downtown, but I'm in the greater Chicago area right now. I wish I had more time. I would go try and hunt down some of these locations, but all the interior shots, all that stuff, I believe, was shot in like Culver City. You know, which makes sense. But I mean, there's so many things we can cover on just this first film alone, but it's really a standout for me. You know, opening up or seeing the detective played by Chris Sarandon, who was also in Night, directed by Tom Holland. There's a lot of like really neat tie-ins here. You know, we see Chris Sarandon, who a lot of people might remember as Prince Humperdinck from Princess Bride.
Jack Skellington.
Jack Skellington.
Christmas.
Yeah. And I think he's great as kind of this been on the beat for too long detective who's kind of just there to do the job. You know, he's worn down by the strains of dealing with psychopaths and murderers, and he's chasing Charles Lee Ray, shootout. You know, he's the Lakeshore Strangler. He's this notorious killer. And funny enough, the name Charles Lee Ray was conceived by combining the names of notorious killers, right? You have Charles for Charles Manson. You have the Lee from Lee Harvey Oswald. And then for Ray, James Earl Ray. So they kind of chopped these three names up, and that's how they got Charles Lee Ray, who breaks into the toy store and gets shot and stumbles upon a big, huge display of good guy dolls, which are all the rage, and performs his voodoo magic, you know, and transfers his soul into the body of this doll. And we're off and running, you know,
A little trivia stat here. It's just bypassed me, but I've just seen it. BP, Brewster Apartments. You're so cool, Brewster. Another Fright Night connection.
Oh, neat. Very cool. Well, here I want to mention this too, real quick. This movie looks great. This movie is it looks great. And what a lot of people don't probably know, I didn't know this before I started kind of digging in, was that the director of photography on this film is Bill Butler. And people may not recognize that name because sadly, unless you're into cinematography, a lot of people don't pay attention to DPs and how a film looks, the look of a film. Now, for me personally, one of my favorite cinematographers, Daniel Pearl, who shot the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He shot the Marcus Nispel remake. He shot the Friday the 13th remake with Marcus Nispel. I think Daniel Pearl is an amazing cinematographer. He's done just a who's who of music videos for all the top stars. If you look up Daniel Pearl, you'll be pretty impressed. But here we have Bill Butler doing the cinematography on Child's Play. And the whole film looks great. I mean, the look of it is what adds to just how frightening this film is and how it really nails the tone, like the tension that builds. And Bill Butler was the cinematographer on Jaws. Funny enough. So if you're wondering, man, this movie looked great. Well, yeah, it was shot by the same guy who shot Jaws. It was the same guy who shot Rocky 2, 3, and 4. He also, he did Capricorn 1. I think I wrote down a couple of other films. Oh, so he shot another one of my absolute favorite films, Frailty, which if y'all aren't familiar with Frailty, please check that out. Incredible. Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth. It's a real great Texas horror film directed by Bill Paxton.
Creeper says he's done the Rocky movies as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he did Rocky 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shot Rocky 2, 3, and 4. But he shot Jaws. He shot a couple of other very early Spielberg films. But just a masterful cinematographer. But he also took over for Haskell Wexler, who was the original DP on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So he took over for Haskell Wexler on Cuckoo's Nest, which also featured the feature debut of Brad Dourif as Billy Pibbit, and he won, a Golden Globe Award for like best new actor. He also won a BAFTA award. For a lot of you that don't know what a BAFTA is, it's the British Academy Film Award for best supporting actor. So right out of the gate, Brad Dourif was, turning heads, and he's just an outstanding actor. He came up. He studied with Sanford Meisner. Just an amazing actor. So it's fun, so yeah, here we are, later, over 10 years later, they're working together again on Child's Play. Bill Butler shooting this film and Brad Dourif, at least in that early, opening sequence as Charles Lee Ray.
And one of the, I suppose one of the last notes in the pre-production, the creation of Chucky and the doll, the great Kevin Yeager.
Oh, Kevin Yeager is just phenomenal.
He ended up marrying the mother in this movie.
That's right. Him and Catherine Hicks, they're still married as far as I can tell.
Cool.
Yeah, they met on Child's Play and got married, Chucky killed Cupid and ended up shooting these two with his own Chucky arrows, and the rest is history. And got married. And yeah, I think I had mentioned this before, but when I did a pilot years ago with Dana Carvey for a project that Dana Carvey was doing, I looked at the call sheet and Kevin Yeager was the makeup guy, and I thought, like, what? Like the Kevin Yeager? And I went into the makeup trailer and it was him. And I sat down. I was like, oh my God, like he'd given me so many nightmares. He's like, oh, which one? You know, Chucky, Freddy. You know, I was like, all of them. You know, I still think his makeup on Freddy for Freddy's Revenge, I believe, part two.
Yeah. A lot of people agrees with that.
That's the best Freddy makeup, in my opinion, by far. So, but yeah, he was in charge of the animatronics that brought Chucky to life. Something I didn't know on the effects team, working with Kevin Yeager, because there was a bunch of puppeteers on this production, but one of them was Howard Berger, who, you know, if people are familiar with K&B, who's the, you know, they run the ship in terms of FX and makeup and all that stuff. Greg Nicotero, and the B is for Howard Berger. And yeah, I didn't know that he was on that team. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And they kind of did they raised the floor, I want to say like 3 or 4 feet in a lot of these shots where you see Chucky moving and walking around, because all the puppeteering was done underneath the ground.
Right.
So that's why, you know, you shoot on sound stages so that you have that luxury. You know, you can't just find a location and then we'll figure it out. You know, like a lot of this is very orchestrated. You know, it's not, when I say puppeteering, it's not like Team America where they're mostly overhead.
No, it's like the slung bar thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're underneath with the wirings and the electronics, and that's a whole world I don't understand, but I just marvel at it because it's absolutely fascinating. And another thing that I didn't really realize, so they, you know, there are certain shots throughout the movie where we see Chucky looking as human as possible, moving around, right?
Yep.
And they cast the small person actor Ed Gale. I believe
he's a wrong in these days.
He is, yeah. There's quite a lot of bad press about Ed Gale at the moment. We won't get into that. I'm pretty sure he worked on yes, he was. Howard the Duck. I was going to say the disastrous Garbage Pail Kids movie, which is one of the unwatchable films. It's bad. It's really bad. But one thing that I didn't realize, or that I learned, was that for some forced perspective shots of Chucky, they actually used Alex Vincent's sister as Chucky, which is pretty nuts. You know what I mean? So, and I can't about
Isaac from Children of the Corn.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the guy who played Isaac, I think he's in it as well. He plays Chucky at certain moments as well.
Yeah, that actor as well. He was Cousin It in the Addams Family movies.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. But imagine being a child, Alex Vincent, and being put in this world. I thought he was great. I thought all the performances were great. But if your leading character is carrying all the weight and it's a child, that's pretty risky. But the
character's like 6 in it, I think.
Yeah,
he's 6. And well, you've just seen Sammy. He's 6, but he's 7 in a few weeks. But my youngest, he's just turned 6. There's 10. I've got 2 6-year-olds, and they're not twins. Work it out.
Yeah.
but my youngest, Joshua, he's 6, and he looks like Andy from Child's Play. Same
Oh,
color hair.
really?
Yeah, he
Oh,
looks a
wow.
spitting image. So being the father of a 6-year-old and watching it, and there's scenes with this child, and he's crying and he's upset, and you know he's so scared. Like as a father of like children that age, I can kind of relate. Like, man, I feel so fucking sorry for this kid.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and nobody will believe him. And he feels trapped by what he thought was his friend, and it's a really heart-wrenching story at the core of it, because his mom really just wanted to get him this doll that he was obsessed over, seeing the
Yeah,
cartoon and the advertisements. That plays back into that consumerism we talked about. I mean, I'll just say this. For anyone who knows me and spends time around me during the holidays, around Christmas time, to me, Christmas is one of the most depressing holidays there is.
stressful.
And that's part of it. It's so heartbreaking to me to witness. I don't have any kids.
Not that you know of.
Come on. And so, but it saddens me to no end to see parents or guardians stressing their asses off trying to get their kids not everything, but sometimes everything, but also just going above and beyond. They're putting in overtime hours. They're killing themselves to try and make a Christmas experience as special and magical as they can for their child. And I feel that that's something that's really been lost in the human spirit, is that, for me, I kind of, call me a cheapskate, whatever, but I kind of let people know, like, I don't do gifts, I'm not a gift giver. I
No.
used to be, but I've really gotten away from that. And I'm not a good gift receiver either. I feel guilty when I receive gifts, because to me, it's, the human connection and spending time. That's to me what really creates memories. And to me, memories are more valuable than possessions. And so it really breaks my heart to see just these lines of people outside of like the Best Buys and outside the various stores, and they're trying to get the last doll or the last video game, or and they're trampling over each other. Do y'all have well, y'all probably don't have like a Black Friday because you don't have Thanksgiving.
No, we do now. Yeah. Well, yeah, we do now. Actually, yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's not as bad it's not as bad as what it is in America. Like I've seen the videos in America. It's a fucking they are literally trampling over each other.
People fucking die getting trampled on, hospitalized.
Our Black Friday, like if there's any UK actions gone. There we go. Yeah, we just like order stuff off Amazon because that's when we get sales.
Yeah. Fuck Amazon, man. No,
Oh,
but I hear you. It helps you avoid the stores. I know. I just,
if I can save some money for Christmas, then I will.
Right, but like, so do you? When Christmas starts rolling around, do you and your wife like, kind of like, y'all look at each other and you're just like, okay, what's the game plan this season? You know what I mean? Because it just seems like that would be. Cool.
So my wife doesn't work. She stopped working after she had our first child. So all the pressure is like on me. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, what am I gonna get? And it's a stressful time, but it is stressful. I mean, last year I was working Christmas Eve. I didn't, and I finished like, I think I was on the phone to you that day as well. I left you some messages, but
yeah.
And I finished like 1 p.m. and I had like a few hours to still get like some last minute gifts and stuff. And I mean, for all parents out there, I respect every single one of you is like doing your best and things like that, because it's tough. So when I watch the mother in this movie, you know, she gives him first gifts. I think it was like an outfit and like some walkie-talkies or something. And like there's the disappointment on his face, and like I see her, and like she can tell she's upset, and the desperation she's like to get this toy, and like if she had a friend who told her about it, she managed to get it. And yeah, when you see the smile in your child's face when you know when you've got them something they really want, it does make up for it. But yeah, Christmas is fucking stressful. We're nearly in August. I'm like, right, Christmas is around the corner already. Yeah.
Is that smile as magical as the hobo in the alley who provides the doll for Miss Barclay here? She's working in a department store. She's slaving away. I think it's Maggie who comes up and tells her that, you know, she's like, the doll's in the alley. Come on, let's go. And she kind of leaves her post behind the jewelry counter or something and goes down to the alleyway. And we see this disgusting hobo. I can't remember his name, the actor's name, but he looks so gross, and his teeth are black and grimy. And, you know, he tries to swindle her in a way, but needless to say, you know, he picked up this doll from the explosion that happened at the toy store after all these voodoo forces converged and caused this ritual to take place, transferring the soul of Charles Lee Ray into the good guy doll. And so he, you know, like any kind of looter, I guess, grabbed a few or whatever, and has this good guy doll, just happened to grab this one. And that's where the transfer happens, where we see, you know, she buys the doll, and she's able to finally get what she wanted for Andy at a discount price. So, and it's interesting. I found this as well. Eden Gross, who a lot of people wouldn't recognize that name, but he was an actor as well. I think he's a businessman now, but he did a ton of voice acting. He's the voice of Chucky in the advertisement. So in the cartoon, I think he's also the voice of the little boy, but in the cartoon advertisement for the good guy doll, he's doing the voice. He also did the voice for the Tommy doll in part 2, and then the Larry and Polly doll in part 3. So that kind of childlike voice, that's like, hi, I'm Chucky, you know, like that's Eden Gross. And Eden Gross also did the voice of Flounder in Little Mermaid.
Well, that's a departure.
Yeah, and he did various voices for Ren and Stimpy. He was Bobo in Tailspin. He did some voices on Pound Puppies. So he really nailed that kind of child like innocence in that voice. But that's that childlike voice of Chucky is Eden Gross. So next time you see Little Mermaid, you see Flounder, like that's the voice of Chucky.
So, jump ahead, which death scene stands out to you the most in this first movie?
Oh man. Well, I think I saw originally the death of Maggie. She was going to get electrocuted in the bathtub. That was how they were originally going to kill her. But then they ended up doing the death, which I thought was, that's a tough question, which is the best one, because that death, that first death that we see of Maggie, who's just, you know, I think she changed her plans so that she could babysit Andy. You know, she's like a ride or die. She's like a ride and die, whatever they call it, best friend. You know, and is babysitting. That the tension building in that scene where she turns the TV off, and then she's back in the kitchen, and the TV comes back on, and it's on the news, and the good guy doll is sitting there watching the news because they're covering the murder of Charles Lee Ray, and I think they're talking about Eddie Caputo, and she turns it off again, and then it turns on again. The tension building in that scene is masterful, absolutely masterful. Along with the music, Joseph Rossetti provided the score, or Joseph Renzetti, I believe. Yeah, Joseph Renzetti provided the score because the music is absolutely chilling. You know, there's a lot of like strings and piano work. I mean, it's very frightening. So we see Maggie, and then, you know,
well, she was played by one of the Pink ladies from Greece.
Was she really? Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I forgot her name in Greece, so it's not French, eh? It's not Rizzo, but ain't the pretty one who gets hit on by the older like TV guy.
Well, there's another thing in that, because the cinematographer Bill Butler also shot Grease. That was another one of his films that he shot. So pretty awesome tie-in there. But yeah, she ends up seeing the footprints of like in the sugar, I think, on the countertop, and she gets the good guy hammer to the eye and pushed out the window. That was sad, because she was completely innocent, didn't break any horror movie tropes, you know, any rules, and she was just there to help out her best friend, and got killed for it, you know. So like that was a tough one.
Well, the one that stands out to me is John, Dr. Death.
Oh yeah, the voodoo. Jesus, the leg breaks.
There's a deleted scene there. There's quite a few deleted scenes, but there's a deleted scene of him going around to a person's home and like doing some video to cure this child's illness.
Of Dr. Death, like doing voodoo.
Like using some voodoo actually for good to cure this child's illness.
Oh wow! I wonder why they cut.
I think the original time for the movie was like over 2 hours, so they had to cut some stuff.
Wouldn't it be amazing to see a director's cut of Child's Play? Yeah. That would be insane.
But yeah, because that
would have made that character more sympathetic. If you were like, this guy was like, he's not the evil voodoo guy.
You know? No, he was not, because there's a line in there where he's talking, I'm paraphrasing, but he says along the lines, "I taught you this. I didn't know you was going to use it for evil or wickedness."
Right.
So, you know, there's that line of dialogue to say that, you know, he's not a bad guy. But like, had they included that scene, then yeah, kind of same with Maggie, how you felt sorry for Maggie because you knew Maggie was a good person. Had that kept that deleted scene for, you know, Dr. Death, you would have felt more sorry for him also.
But you're right. Those when he pulls out that voodoo doll and snaps his legs, and just the sound design of the legs of bones snapping, and that's. Then he eventually just like stabs it, doesn't he? Like just stabs it at the end, right?
Yeah. I guess the most famous scene in the movie, I don't know if you agree, is when what's the name of Andy's mother in it again? Is it Karen? Did you say?
Barkley, yeah, Karen Barkley.
Yeah. So when Karen picks, you know, she's all over the place now. She doesn't know if her son's turned evil or if it's the dough. So she picks the doll up, like, talk to me, goddamn it, I'll throw you in the fire.
You fucking
bitch, you dirty slut.
Yeah, you dirty slut. Yeah. That's a good one. What is he? I think he bites her and she drops him and he rolls under the couch.
Yeah. Then he like runs down the lift, but
I use that roll under the couch move in my wrestling matches. I use that Chucky roll under the couch. It's a good good evasive maneuver to get away. Smart. I learned that from Chucky.
So I mean, finish off.
you would pick the voodoo guy. Sorry, just to go back and answer your question. You would pick.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the kills here? We have Maggie. We have Eddie Caputo gets blown up by the
Right.
the stove, the gas.
Yeah, that's
the
Chucky's
stove-
old running
gas
pattern.
stove. Always make sure they're off. It's very dangerous. That we see Dr. Death. I thought one of the most horrific deaths was the doctor at the hospital getting fried.
I forgot
Right?
about that. Oh, yeah.
They take Andy in to get checked out psychologically, and you have this smug doctor who's, thinking he has all the answers, and I think he gets fried with the EKG things, gets put, and so seeing him getting progressively kind of fried up, I thought that was pretty scary.
I think that's pretty much it. Am I right in saying?
Emotionally, I'm going to go with Maggie as the death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sound wise, voodoo guy with the leg snappings, and then like visually, yeah, the doctor getting fried to crisp.
And to finish up on Child's Play 1 then, so obviously the culmination at the end, they're all in the apartment. Obviously the policeman believes Karen at the end, and yeah, he goes down fighting Chucky, like they blow him away, and there's still like a hand crawling.
Hilarious scene too before that. Sorry, as as Chucky's making his own way to the apartment, and he's in the elevator, and the old couple is like, "Oh, somebody left their doll." And she's like, "What an ugly doll!" And he walks in, and he's like, "Fuck you," or like, "You," he's like, "Fuck you," or "You bitch," or says something. I can't remember. That was hilarious. I thought that was really funny. Just tiny moments, threads like that that are comedic, are always great to kind of break the tension. But yeah, I love that they kept the humor of, and Brad Dourif doing the voice, even though he wasn't seen. Yeah, I mean that's the only way to go about it, right? Because he keeps it. That's Charles Lee Ray and his personality, and he's a wisecracking serial killer. Later on it would get just overly comedic, and that I felt
the Freddy syndrome.
yeah, but I felt it was so much of a departure that it took away. It just wasn't scary anymore. It took away from the tension and the fright of what they would build up.
Yeah, like Bride of Chucky still had some of its horror elements, but there was a lot more comedic. But See the Chucky is just a comedy. But
yeah,
to be fair, with Cult and Curse, they've kind of bring it back a little bit. I don't know if you've seen them too.
I think I tried to watch. What's the one like in the hospital? I think it's like Fiona Dourif.
Yeah, that's Cult. That's a sequel to Curse.
Okay, then maybe I tried to watch. I've seen snippets of both, but when they start CGIing Chucky's facial expressions,
well, the best scene about Curse gives you flashbacks of Chucky, well, Charles. So in Curse, there's two sisters, and Fiona Dourif plays the one sister, and she's in a wheelchair.
That's right.
So the backstory is they had a family, like the two sisters. They had a mother and a father, and the father was introduced his friend Charles Lee Ray, and Charles had an unhealthy obsession with the girl's mother. Well, the girl wasn't born yet; she was in the womb. The mother was pregnant, so he ended up. If I've got this right, Charles killed his friend, took the woman hostage and the one daughter, and then like something happened and he stabbed the woman in the stomach, and that's what caused.
Oh, that's right. I do remember. That's what put her in the wheelchair. She was born with like an injury from that. Oh, that's
and that led to the same night where he's escaping from the police and he gets killed by the policeman and he transfers his soul. That's in like the same night.
wow. So that's
it
to get on the run.
Yeah, so I applaud it. It's not bad, to be honest with you. Like Seed is just fucking abysmal, but like there's moments in the other two, like Curse and Cult. Cult is weird because it's like 3 or 4 Chuckies on the loose, and they're all sharing the same personality. But I would say Curse is worth a watch, definitely.
I don't know. I just CGI Chucky's like just it's
yeah.
It's ridiculous. To make it practical, use puppeteers, use animatronics. Like that's the real deal.
They don't want to pay the guys.
Huh?
They don't want to pay the guys. We've seen what's happening in Hollywood at the minute.
Don't understand.
So leaving off that then. So Child's Play, great movie. Can both agree.
Love it.
Definitely, came from the 80s where, the slasher phase on horror movies was at its peak, and it did something to stand out from a lot of slashers at the time and ended up making a franchise, and it was great. So leaving off that, I guess we're going to Child's Play 2. So the in-between stories from what I got was that Karen ended up getting committed to a mental asylum because no one believed her that, there was this killer on the loose. I don't know what it said about the policeman, Chris Sarandon's character. I don't know if he got committed as well.
And his partner, I don't remember his name, but he's hilarious when he's like just in there with the charred Chucky head, and he's like,
yeah.
And then it breaks through the air vent and like grabs him. And he's like, ah! And like, yeah. I mean, is their word not any good? Like they fucking witnessed this as well. Like, are they in the insane asylum now? Like, did they get committed as well? Like, I mean, that was kind of, yeah. I didn't like that as a reason to write out her character. I thought that was kind of a weak excuse, for that very reason. So, you have the lead detective on the Charles Lee Ray case witnessed that this all happened. And so what happened to all that? What is his word no good? So I think John Lafia, I think that's who directed the sequel. He wanted to direct the original Child's Play because he was also one of the writers on it, and he hadn't directed anything at the time, so that's why they were like, no, we want somebody who's actually directed stuff. And they fortunately got Tom Holland. Tom Holland also directed one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations, Thinner. I don't know if you've ever seen Thinner.
I've heard of it.
Thinner's awesome. That's a fun mid-90s. I love my mid-90s horror. Thinner is a lot of fun. But Tom Holland directed that as well. But needless to say, yeah, John Lafia wanted to direct it. He was one of the writers on Child's Play. But then, yeah, they granted him the directorial duties on part 2. I like part 2. I also like part 3. I feel like they started to kind of lessen a bit, but I do like part 2 quite a lot. I think there's a lot of really good stuff in part 2, and they kept the overall tone of it.
I think the thing that stands out in part 2 for a lot of people, and a lot of people believes it's in part 1 for some reason, is the end sequence in the toy factory. That's quite a memorable sequence, and some people mistakes it for it's actually in part 1, but it's like, no, it's actually in part 2.
Yeah. To me, going back to what you said about where the mom turns the doll over and she checks and there's no batteries and the head spins around.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?
Yeah, that moment, and yeah, I'm your friend to the end. Like, that's another one of those classic lines. Those moments of reveal those have to be executed so well, because that's the big turning point. You know what I mean? Where like everyone thinks they're crazy. Everyone thinks they're crazy. Oh shit! Like, they're not crazy. That moment of reveal is so important. I mean, it's like the turning point, really. And in part two, I really liked. It wasn't as impactful, but I really liked that moment of reveal where Andy gets adopted, or he's in foster care, and he ends up getting adopted, and he's not fitting in, and neither is the other girl in the house. Is it Christine Elise, I think?
Yeah, is the name of character Kyle? Is it something like that?
Yeah. She played I always remember her from playing a heel girlfriend to Brandon Walsh on 90210. So, but yeah, she's on the swing set, and her feet are kind of going over the dirt, and then she discovers the damaged good guy doll in the ground after she had just, I think, thrown one out in the trash or something. And that moment of reveal I thought was really cool, but it wasn't as impactful as the original. But I like part two a lot. I mean, I thought it looked really cool. That good guy factory is in Long Beach, so all these like exterior shots of this massive good guy doll factory, that was shot in Long Beach. And you're right. Yeah, that end sequence in the factory is always what is it that the factory worker gets put on the conveyor thing, and he gets the boy eyes injected into his eyes. That was kind of a neat sequence. I like that.
And there's the lady school teacher as well, who just gets whipped to death with
great.
the ruler.
She's great in everything she's in. I might be mistaken, but wasn't she? Did you ever see Donnie Darko?
Yeah, well, Donnie Darko was one of the films I saw years ago, but I forgot a lot of scenes. But I know it, but there's a lot of scenes I've forgotten.
Doing a disservice to Sparkle Motion. She's always a Karen-y type hag character.
Beth Grant is her name.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's same. She was in Donnie Darko as the one of the parents for the dance team, and yeah, just this mean school teacher throws Andy into the closet, she locks him into the classroom, right?
Yeah, it's classroom. Yeah, she locks Chucky in the
she throws Chucky in the closet. That's right, and then locks Andy in the classroom, and gets the old ball pump to the stomach and killed with like a ruler, I think, or something. It's one of those kind of and then
that dies in Speed.
In Speed, yeah, that's right, on the bus. She's the one that blows up, I think, right? Or she's trying to get off or something, starts going crazy. Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
That's right. That's funny. Yeah, the ending to part two is neat. He gets all melted and destroyed with hot plaster or whatever they make dolls out of. And then he becomes like the I guess like a molding of all these melted parts and stuff like that. I like the ending sequence in part 2. There's some good stuff in that.
Then he
I
basically
mean,
he explodes at the end, doesn't he? Because they stick the air
oh,
hose
that's
into him and
right.
it explodes.
That's right. I'm thinking of the beginning of part 3
Yeah.
when they're the factory and they're, the factory's been closed and they're cleaning it up, and the hook comes down and punctures the melted whatever, and the blood starts oozing out of it. The opening to part 3 is pretty neat. It has kind of like a James Bond kind of swirl. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like Vertigo. Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird because number 2 I had the ending vividly, but number 3 I remember the opening vividly compared to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. The thing I really like about part 3 is the death of the CEO in his big high rise, and like they have this this big corporate meeting, and they're talking about the nightmares of a little boy shouldn't stop us from putting the good guy dolls back out there, and like money, like that's really what's important here, like money. And I love that it's just like instant karma on this old CEO up in his office. He's got all these toys and shit, and he's playing golf in his office, and then these different these different dolls start kind of talking, and he's starting to like freak out, and Chucky kills him. What does he do? Does he strangle him, or?
Yeah, no. I think he beats him with like his golf club. Am I right in saying?
Because he hits him. I think he hits him with the golf club, and then there's some line in there where he's like, I think he strangles him. He's like, nothing like a strangulation to get the blood flowing, or some line kind of like that. And then, so wait, so then before that though, you see the like kind of corporate underling guy in the rain, is that part 2? No, is that part 2? I'm getting confused now.
That's because I think he's against
the nerd, the bag over his head.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's after the CEO dies, because if I've got it right, I think he was actually against going ahead with it. I might be wrong, like redoing the good guy dose, but then afterwards he's given a good guy dose. But yeah, Chucky comes from behind him, puts the bag over his head, and like strangles him.
Yeah, that's right. I like that. I thought that was pretty fun. The whole military school thing was an interesting choice. Like that was a neat kind of departure from the inner city and or the neighborhood, the friendly neighborhood. But it becomes, I think, sometimes in a situation like that, I think it becomes like such a departure that I don't know anybody that went to military school. Do you? I mean, where do you draw the relation with that? I mean, there are certainly elements to it where you see the young kid who, I mean, what do you, did you freeze? Did Chucky get you?
I personally wouldn't send. Sorry, yeah, man. I personally wouldn't send my kids to military school. Don't get me wrong. If when the day comes, if they turn 16 or 18, at whatever the age is, and if they decide that's what they want to do, then like I'll have a long talk with them. But if that's what they want to do, then yeah. But sending my kid, like, I just don't like sending my kids away because I love my boys so much. Like they're going away next week, like to see to stop with my parents for like a week, and I'm gonna miss them. So the fact there's parents out there who could send their kids. I mean, to be fair, Andy had no choice because his parents, well, one of them was still locked up or probably dead at this point. So he kind of had no choice.
The daddy's dead too. I mean, the mom's a widower, or she's a widow. I'm sorry, she's a widow in the original. She's a widow, so his dad's already dead.
Yeah, he died in like a car crash, so he kind of had no choice. But like, as for like other parents sending the kids away, I'm like, really? So
Yeah.
that's just me. What did you
What about
think to the
What
time
about
jump
Lincoln
at
Hawk? And Over the Top. Mike Hawk got sent to military camp and became a little brat and over the top. Anyways,
What did you think to the time jump and Justin Whalen playing the new Andy?
it's Sean Whalen. Is that right?
Just
You froze again. What was it?
sorry,
I remember
Justin
Justin Whalen. Oh yeah,
Whalen.
Sean Whalen, comedic actor, also very collect. Yeah, Justin. I liked him. I thought he was kind of like the it guy for like a little while. He was in quite a few things. I think he appeared in like Dungeons and Dragons movie. I
He was
think
it.
with like.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Like Marlins.
Wait, say that again.
No,
Oh
I actually
man,
enjoyed that. Like Marlins in it, and like I actually enjoyed that movie.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
You
It wasn't my cup of tea. He also played Jimmy Olsen in the Lois and Clark series. With
or as I call it, the Terry Hatcher show, as I called it.
oh yeah, I know. Dean Kane's not really a favorite of anybody's, I think, for anything. But yeah, I think he was Jimmy Olsen in that series. I like Justin Whalen. You know, I thought he was pretty good. And I could see that being Andy, you know, as a teenager or whatever. The character that really stood out to me the most in part three was man, I'm blanking on his name, but it was the actor who played was he a colonel or Lieutenant Sheldon or Shelton? He was kind of like he was kind
He was like
of
the squad leader sort of thing.
yeah. I thought he was great, and he's a really fine actor as well. But I like that character a lot. And that's also where we first saw oh man, I'm blanking on her name. But she was she plays De Silva. I remember that. I'm sorry.
Oh, Perry Reeves.
Yes, Perry Reeves. Yeah, so she, you know, you would see her way later on as a reoccurring supporting character in Entourage, as Ari Gold's wife in Entourage. So, but that was the first time I'd ever seen her as well, and I thought she was good. You know, I thought I like three. I think it's kind of silly in a lot of ways, but it still maintains, you know, the seriousness. It's not overly jokey, and I dig it. You know, the best kind of bit being where, you know, Chucky replaces the paintball bullets with real bullets, which I thought, like, did that work? Is that how that works? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know any, like, paintball bullets that are like actual shells. They're usually like gumballs. You know, so I don't know how that works.
My laptop's gonna go flat in a minute, so I'll swap them to my phone now. But I think what my favorite scene was with the barber.
Oh yeah, with Andrew Robinson, who's amazing.
Yeah,
Andrew Robinson from Hellraiser. He's like, "Presto, you're dead."
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's the father and he's the one. Yeah,
he plays, Frank Cotton. Not Frank. He plays. He plays the father who gets murdered. Yeah. He's awesome. He's always good. And you see him play like cops, and he's Andrew Robinson's awesome. So wait, do you have to switch over your phone or whatever? I was gonna say I could take a look at some of these see how the chat's looking here.
I have to laugh, because I've seen a few comments. James is in his car. I'm like, yeah, it's a car.
You know what? It looks like you're stalking someone.
Like,
That's
people,
so funny.
I don't know what's wrong with people. It's like, yeah, I'm in a car. Like, I've got a loud family. It's no
hilarious. Oh, that's funny. Doug Sullivan saying there's something called simunition. Oh, it's like simulated ammunition. I get it. Simunition that looks like real bullets and shoots paintball. Interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you, Doug. Spiro, always good to have you on. Thank you. He does look like he's stalking somebody in his car. Very cool. Ricky Bobby, always good to have you on. Let's see. Yeah, I do remember the Dean Cain playing Scott Peterson in that made-for-TV movie. Good call there. I remember that. Spiro, good call. Children are consumer trainees. It's very true. Yeah, I didn't see the D&D, the Dungeons and Dragons. I haven't seen any of them. I didn't see the new one with Chris Pine. And I certainly didn't see the one with Justin Whalen. And was it Marlon Wayans, I believe, was in that one as well? So if y'all are late to the stream, don't worry. These go up and you can watch them back later. I'm just kind of going through these comments here. I agree, Brandon. Jennifer Tilly, she does have an annoying voice. And she would become Tiffany, Chucky's bride. So let's see here. Thank you all so much for joining us as well and tuning in. Yes, we talked about Dolly Dearest a little earlier on. We feel like that was the female answer to Chucky. If y'all aren't familiar with Dolly Dearest, check it out. It's a fun movie. Let's see here. Black Devil Doll. Why does that sound familiar? I have not seen that one, Art. I'll have to look that one up. Is that a full moon movie? What is that? Black Devil Doll. I'll have to look that one up. And so just looking through, yes, Trilogy of Terror did inspire, it was one of, along with Cabbage Patch Dolls and that Twilight Zone episode I had mentioned, titled Living Doll. So let's see here. James, are you back? I'm trying to understand if you're...
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, guys, if you got any questions, we'll do 15, 20 minutes and then call it night. We'll send your questions in.
T-Man mentioned the poster for Child's Play 2, and I really like that poster as well, where he's cutting the, I think he's cutting the head off of the Jack-in-the-Box.
Yes.
I love the poster. It's awesome. It's really good. Child's Play 3 was supposed to have multiple Chucky dolls. I think it did at one point. Maybe not as the main source of it, but I believe it did.
Well, yeah, because like you said, so at the beginning, they get the Chucky from like part 2. Is the Chucky doll from part 2 the same one as part 1? I forget.
Well, no, I mean it can't be, right? Because
I forgot how he came back in number 2.
Let's see. They did the blood swirl in part 3.
Yeah.
Part 2. I'm trying to remember. That's a good call.
I forgot.
I've seen part 3, probably the most recent. Well, I've seen part 1. I know the best, but part 2, I need to give another watch. I did
Part
like
three, because, like I said, one of the reasons they was going to go with a multiple Chucky, because obviously his blood gets mixed in with all the new Chucky dolls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I like the death of the dad actually in the foster dad. I like the death of him in part two because he was such a prick from the start of it.
Yeah, does he
Never.
slice his ankles on the
No.
stairs? Is that right?
No. Chucky's in the basement and Andy goes down there with the knife to confront him, and the dad comes down the stairs, and then he sees Andy with the knife, and he's kind of like, all right, Andy, like, you are crazy, just like I suspected. I never liked you or wanted you from the start. He doesn't say that, but that's like what he's basically saying.
Yeah.
Walking down the stairs, like, just calm down, and then Chucky grabs a fire poker and hooks his ankle, and he falls and is hanging upside down.
That's it. Yeah.
Down, and then there's that reveal where the dad sees that this doll is actually real, and then he unhooks him, and the dad falls and breaks his neck.
That's right.
So I thought the killing of the foster mom was kind of sad too, because she was a good person, you know what I mean? She was the one that really wanted kids, and you see she gets an off-screen death. It took a turn around, and she's got the sewing needles in her or something, or she's been stabbed with scissors, I believe, and she's all like fucked up in the chair, dead. I thought that one was rough. So
comfortable. I'm just gonna lay down. There we go. I'm just gonna lay down.
What are you doing out here, son?
Yeah. So I mean, if there is demand, we might talk about the others. I will give out a shout out performance to John Ritter in Bride of Chucky, because
he's great. Then I'll give a shout out performance to Alexis Arquette. Rest in peace. I thought Alexis Arquette always stood out in all the roles that I saw him at the time, but when he passed away, he had transitioned to a female. But a lot of people would remember Alexis Arquette from a scene-stealing performance in Wedding Singer, as kind of the Boy George singer that Steve Buscemi's got the eyes for.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. Oh, what a great scene. So good. Yeah, it's so good. It's so fun. It's so good.
How did we get on the conversations? Because
the what? Did you freeze again? Did the constable get you?
my internet's bad tonight.
Well, you're in your car, man. I'm not hooked up to the hotel Wi-Fi. Mine's working okay, but you're in your car, man. Let's see here.
My internet's terrible tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Roger Holland made a comment that I thought was kind of funny. He says, "What I will never understand is why people look so weak around Chucky. Just give him a big boot, take his knife away, stab him millions of times." Well, I'm not sure even that will work, but I think people are just so frightened at a doll being alive and operating and talking on its own that there's that moment of shock. But yeah, I don't know. Like, if you went to give him a big boot, would he stab your leg? And then you're really fucked. He's going to cut your Achilles heel, and then what? Then what happens, Roger? Huh? Not so tough now. No. it's funny because Teddy Ruxpin was another one of the talking bears that came out in the 80s, and it had the failed competitor, the AG bear, which I just recently learned from one of my other co-hosts. You're like the Shadow Man. Where are you? You're leaning back in the car? I can barely see you. Where are you? What the fuck? You're the Shadow Man. You look like a total creeper right now. It's hilarious. It's like just your face.
My internet. I think what it is because I'm so far away from the Wi-Fi box, so my signal's terrible when I'm away from it.
Yeah, Ricky Bobby's saying you're doing your best Renee impression in the dark.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Tazzle, okay, you know what I'm talking about. Your sister had a Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah, Teddy Ruxpin was a bear, and you'd put like a cassette tape in his back, and he would say all these different phrases. And then it was the competitor was the AG bear, which actually didn't say anything, but I think it made like it would like make like gibberish sounds or something like that. So you can see why that failed competing with Teddy Ruxpin. So that was oh yeah. So let's see. Doug's saying he thinks the opening of Child's Play 2 is them rebuilding the original doll at the factory. I kind of remember that. That starts to make sense. Hey, Mark.
Right.
Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, Bill. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see here. Jose wants us to talk about Martin Lawrence movies. I don't know if Martin Lawrence is in any horror films or action, cheesy martial arts movies. I do like Martin Lawrence.
I don't know. A lot of some of his movies are pretty scary to watch.
Oh yeah. I just not a Bad Boys guy.
He's like Big Mama's House 1 I enjoyed, but Big Mama's House 2 with 3 not so much.
Wasn't he also in Life? Like
Life is good. Yeah, him and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, that one's good.
Jingle egg. Bernie Mac.
You gonna eat that cornbread? Our Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky ain't good. I think Bride of Chucky's, you can check it out. It's got Katherine Heigl very early on, post.
Is she in that?
Yeah, she's the main. I think she's the main girl.
Oh, well. Forgot about that.
Post Under Siege 2. You're right. John Ridley is amazing in that, and like I mentioned, I think Alexis Arquette is very, very entertaining as always.
And obviously, I'll give a shout out to Jennifer Tilly as well.
Yeah, no, when you think of her, you can see Tiffany. You can see the Tiffany character in that, right? And then, isn't Redman in that too? I think, or is that
he's in Seed?
Oh, see, okay. I was like, where? See, this is just, it starts jumping the shark after part 3. I think it starts just getting ridiculous. So I like the climactic ending in part 3 too at the carnival. I thought that was kind of cool. I think Chucky falls into ridiculous like industrial fan blade or something and gets like chopped up, or I can't remember. Let's see here. Yeah, no, I appreciate everyone tuning in. I know James does as well, as he's on the stakeout. And no, Doug, we mentioned we're not going to talk about the new AI Chucky. We mentioned it briefly, but that's best left unspoken of. It was very boring and no voodoo. So,
yeah, it was pretty by the numbers sort of movie. Like I said, Aubrey Plaza, I think that's her name. She's in it. She's okay to look at. That was it.
Diego Mendoza is asking what my favorite from the 2010s. One of my favorite movies from 2010s. I'm trying to think of the year, but one of my favorite films that came out, I believe, after 2010. I'd have to look. Moon. If you're not familiar with
Oh,
Moon,
yeah, you're a
Sam.
Sam Rockwell fan, ain't you?
Oh man, he's the best. He's the best.
Mm. He's
That movie
great.
was directed by the son of David Bowie.
Yeah,
So
sorry, Bowie.
Duncan Jones.
Yeah.
So
Um, um, yeah, someone said there's been so many great films in the 2020s. I'm like, has there really?
no, yeah, that's a
I think
toss
we're
up.
in the. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. I'm hearing good things. I'm not going to see it bad because I'm a man.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
gonna.
but, no offense to people who want to see it. Um, but
Did
yeah,
you?
I can't.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I can't. I don't think there's been any good films in the 2020s. I think we're in like a real dark age of cinema.
Yeah, I usually revert back to um, just films that I dig.
Oh, I did watch. I did watch. Finally, get round to watching that. Once Bitten, Jim Carrey.
Oh, Once Bitten. Yeah, what'd you think?
Oh man, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's different, right? It's funny. I mean, it's the first time I'd ever seen Jim Carrey, and he's not
Yeah, that's
totally over
it's
the
not
top wacky Jim Carrey like people think. It's good.
because
I really liked it.
it's was it's like early to late 80s. When you think about it, like Ace Ventura wasn't till like 95, so this is nearly a decade before Ace Ventura.
Yeah, but he would go on to be a regular cast member in Mad TV, and he was great. Um, and that was probably 1990, maybe. Oh,
Hmm.
so if you haven't seen any of his work on Mad TV, I would check it out. He did Fire Marshal Bill, and like he had a ton of other characters that were great. I think Mad TV doesn't get enough of the respect that it deserves for providing a ton of wonderful comics. Will Sasso, Michael McDonald. Um, I'm blanking on the name of the female. There are a couple. I mean, there's a couple. Everyone in the cast is great for the most part. I really enjoyed Mad TV, and it was always a really nice alternative to Saturday Night Live. Um, we're gonna wrap it up. We really appreciate all y'all hanging out and assisting James on the stakeout as he's.
Looking out for Chucky, man.
You're gonna get a bag dropped over your head. You're
I
like
know.
the CEO underling in your car. At least it's not pouring rain, right? And you're trying to set up a date.
I think it's the rain tonight, actually. So the weather over here has been so messed up. They
Is
say,
it?
they're saying the world's on fire at the minute. It's been fucking miserable over here.
Yeah, it's crazy times, man. Is it hot at least, or is it cold?
Just humid. It's raining, but it's just so fucking humid.
Deborah Wilson, that was her name. Thank you, Chronic XWND. See, I always think of you dealing with cold and rain. I just think that that's like the only weather that you guys have over there. So, yeah, Deborah Wilson is hilarious. I'll leave y'all with this. Deborah Wilson was amazing in a movie called Black Dynamite with Michael Jai White. And
I've heard of it and I haven't seen it.
oh, dude, yeah, Phil Lamar was great too. Love Phil Lamar. Well, I think my brother is a friend of his. Actually, they've worked together on a project that he did with his
He,
wife.
he, he voiced one of my favorite video game characters, Vamp from the Metal Gear Solid series.
Phil Lamar did.
Yeah, like he voiced Vamp from Metal Gear Solid series. So yeah, and
Very
he was
cool.
and he's in Futurama as well. What's the name of the guy? I forgot the name of the guy he voiced, but he's in Futurama.
I'm not sure. Or is it Mo Collins? I might be thinking of Mo Collins in Black Dynamite. I'm confused now. Yeah, it might be Mo. I don't know. I haven't seen Black Dynamite in a long time, but it was one of those female leads. It was either Mo Collins or Deborah Wilson from Mad TV. She has one of the funniest lines. It's Mo Collins. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. Cool. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. Always fun. Oh yeah, and on Mad TV there was a really cool Bret Hart appearance where he did some hilarious stuff with Will Sasso. So
he was legit pissed after that.
Will Sasso was?
No, Bret was.
No, are you serious?
No, seriously. Like, I've read Bret's book cover to cover so many times. He did not like Will Sasso, and when he did put him in the sharp, because I think he showed up in WCW afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think Bret got him in a sharpshooter or something, but he went in extra hard on him because he said he didn't like him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he did not enjoy being part of my TV.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Well, his segments were really funny. Will Sasso does a great Steven Seagal as well. To touch up on our last episode, yeah, Bobby Lee was great. So many great comics in Mad TV. Really enjoyed that show. But that's funny.
I interviewed. Do you remember the band Sum 41?
Yeah.
I interviewed the bass player Colin McCaslin about a year or so ago, and on the video, Still Waiting, Will Sasso's in the beginning of it, and he plays like this, this music executive, and he's just like so off the cuff doing it. So I said to Colin, I'm like, was it scripted? He went, no. He said he just did his own thing. We didn't know what to expect, and we was trying not to laugh. So it was pretty funny. I think Colin might be coming onto the cafe this autumn, so that'll be cool.
That'd be cool. That is cool. Yeah, Bret is always pissed, it seems, isn't he? Sylvia, thank you. It's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. Just checking over here. Doug Sullivan wants us to talk about Prayer of the Roller Boys. Corey Haim. We'll get around to that one of these years. Yeah, Artie Lang.
I'm trying to think what we're doing for next week. I mean, if anyone's got any suggestions for what we should talk about next week, post them in the comments section below, like after we finish recording, and let us know. But there's so many things to talk about. Like, we've had a good time talking about Child's Play. I really enjoyed talking about Steven Seagal last week. I thought that was a hilarious episode.
That was fun.
So I'm looking forward to next week's episode.
Yeah, we just kind of wing it a lot of times. We cram on some of this research, but we just kind of wing it a lot of times, and just it's more of a hangout. And so we're really having a good time, and we appreciate all y'all hanging out with us, and talking movies with a couple marks. So I have a seminar to start getting ready for. And I have a show tomorrow. I'm in Chicago at the moment. So I'll be doing a seminar at the Freelance Wrestling Academy. It's posted on my story on Instagram. And I'll be in Detroit next weekend doing a couple shows as well. So if y'all are in the Detroit area, let me know and come say what's up. And yeah, aside from that, you got anything?
Nope, just trying to turn my son into a champion in Taekwondo. So
you're gonna be one of those parents that are like, "You need to win at all costs."
Yeah, you only have one. So today, while I was at work, he was watching Karate Kid 1. So when I came back, he was watching the beginning of Karate Kid 2. And the scene where that's what we should talk about next week, Karate Kid, actually. But anyway,
we should do a Chad McQueen introspective here, okay? Like the fact that
that'd be pretty sweet.
for part 2, and that's where you just see Dutch, the back of his head, because they threw the hat on some blonde, because I think Chad McQueen did. Oh, they're coming back. So it's like, I just, the Dutch character would not have just stood there while Johnny gets beat up and just has his back turned to the whole thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Well, that's the saying. So Johnny's like, I still got second place. Second place is not good enough. And he puts in the choker. How does second place feel? And I said to me, boy, so that's what I should do. You, how does third place feel?
Break his trophy.
Yeah. But no, he's got he's trained about 4 times this week because him and Sammy, they're stopping at my parents for a week next week. So his club said that he can have extra lessons because they can have extra lessons this week, then they're away, and then when they come back, they can have extra lessons because his teachers is going to Kazakhstan to compete in the World Championships.
Jesus.
Yeah, so they've got the main guy who runs their dojang. Sorry, it's just me and Paul like.
What happened?
There we go. Got me okay. So the main chap who runs it, Mr. He's about 40. Yeah, I was speaking to him last night. Actually, he hasn't competed for 12 years, but he's going to be competing in the older category. So he's the guy who runs the place. But then there's the star, teacher, Katie. She's 21. She's already been European. She's been winning like European titles since she's like been 14. So she's 21 now. So this year, 6 weeks before the European Championships in Italy, she was having a sparring session training. She broke a rib. So she still went and she competed. She got bronze, but as she was competing, she actually fell on it. She stepped wrong and she broke like 2 bones in her foot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she just had the worst look. So since she's been back, she's recovered and she's been training hard. So in August, they're going for the World Championship. So I said to my boys, I'm like, wow, your teacher could actually be like the world champion.
That's pretty nuts.
So tomorrow night he's got last night he was actually helping teach a class. Me boy was.
Oh, really? That's cool. Dang.
Yeah, he was actually. So they've got 2 things. They've got Little Warriors. So that's for like up to the 7-year-olds. That's what Sammy's in. And then they've got like the older class. So Sammy's part of Little Warriors. So his teacher Katie said to James Dean, because James Dean was there waiting. She says, do you want to help me teach? So him and like this other girl who was like a green belt, they was helping her teach like all the Little Warriors. So I said to James Dean, I was like, what's it like teaching Sammy? He's like, yeah, I felt good. I said to Sammy, was James Dean like, yeah, he was okay. So he was helping teach a class, but tomorrow night he's got sparring class where he's fighting, and then he's got like a regular class afterwards. So maybe
rough him up a little ahead of time, get him ready, warm him up yourself,
Yeah. Try to help. I'll kill over the heart attack me.
Oh, ridiculous. Well, thank you all again. Sorry we couldn't get to every comment, but we see you all, and we appreciate all y'all and your comments and putting in the time with us and hanging out and talking Child's Play. We'll see what we talk about next week. We got some ideas, and tune in. It'll likely be a different time, but just stay tuned. James posts it to his stories. I posted it to my stories. Make sure to follow us on CineMarks. Give us a follow, a like, whatever, all that bullshit. And
we never plug our social media. So follow Paul London Few on social media on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at James here, and we've got the CineMarks channel at CineMarks123. So you can follow us there.
That's it. And just keep watching what you dig. Whether it's Super Fights or Prayer of the Roller Boys or the new Child's Play remake of, horrible ass boring snoozer. Whatever you're into, be a mark. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy it, because that's what we do. We are CineMarks.